They're the essential part of a picture, really. They're the bit that really makes the magic and the wonder happen.
Creative flair.
Problem solving.
Understanding your instincts and then going for it.
I think having good vision.
Organisational skills.
Being adaptable.
The role of producer is one of the most varied in theatre.
They have to be really clued up in terms of their collaboration skills, be able to collaborate across a wide range of people and communicate really well across those people.
The theatre producer, has sort of like the vision, the broader vision of, a production or an idea, can kind of see how that might come together, what they might need in order to make that happen.
A theatre producer is the person who is responsible for all aspects of mounting a production. So from acquiring the rights right through to the get out at the end. They're like a conductor of an orchestra.
Some will work in venues and work in in-house productions and co-productions.
There's also talent development producers which specifically deal with artists, finding artists and creatively putting in steps for them to reach their potential.
There are also producers that work for theatre companies, particularly touring theatre companies. And those are exciting because you get to tour work to a vast array of audiences. I think anyone with a heart of theatre and for the arts can be a producer.
Good producer needs many skills. I think most important of those are they need to be a people person. You need to be able to work with a large number of people, sometimes in quite pressurised situations, and you need to be able to communicate in a respectful and effective manner.
A good producer is good at problem solving and is diplomatic and able to work with a really diverse range of people. And has really excellent organisational skills and is able to articulate projects and shows in different ways to different people.
I think having good vision as well from the start, so you're not just sort of mindlessly kind of doing other people's vision.
Creative flair, excellent project management skills, good budget managing skills, being adaptable, being someone who is able to get on with everyone.
Understanding your colleagues' expertise and strengths would only make not only your life easier, but your projects a lot more effective and efficient.
Give yourself time when you're trying to push through because you think you don't know things and you do need to know things. You just need the time for it to embed and for you to go with the process of how things work.
Find yourself a really good mentor that has done it already, especially if you're new, because then they've got a whole broad layout of how it roughly kind of happens, and you can use that as a guide.
The first step I'd say is to know your audience. The step before that is know your team.
The more pressure you put on yourself, the less creative you are, and the less chance you have at really honing in on these skills and really taking the time to understand why certain decisions are made.
Do you know how serious this is?
Never assume a piece of information, like go and find out whether that person can do it or cannot do it, or is it this much or is it that much. Yeah, just don't assume anything.
To trust your gut instincts, because every person in that team has got their own creative flair, and there's a reason why you're there. So trust it and be confident in sharing it.
Making sure they've got the right support, the right training, and also something genuinely to get their teeth into and deliver. I would say the first thing that you need to do is to recruit well so that you get somebody that understands the vision of the organisation, so that then when they do come into place, the benefits are mutual.
Part of it is just induction into how the building works and getting them to understand the basic kind of communication from department to department. So that's a slab of time.
I think the major thing is to listen to them, listen to their particular passions, their particular skills and their particular challenges.
Play to their strengths. Give them something to do in the first few months that shows them at their best and allows their confidence to grow and the building's confidence in them to grow before you move them on to something a little trickier.
I think it's really important that you have a coaching approach to working with emerging talent, because it enables them to strengthen their own voice, what they believe in.
If diverse audiences can't see people like them represented in the programme and on stage, then there's inevitably a feeling that the venue isn't for people like them.
It has to be one of your company's mission statements.
Cultural diversity is about listening. It's not about knowing everything, and it's not about representing an entire society in just one person.
In terms of embedding cultural diversity, it's about ensuring it's part of everybody's remit. There's really very little point in having a cultural diversity officer or a cultural diversity, agenda item. It kind of needs to run through absolutely everything.
It's something to be thought about at every strategic decision.
The fundamental thing is there has to be the commitment to do it, and it has to come right from the top, and it has to be really clearly stated repeatedly.
Again, it's planning. This is not a knee-jerk reaction. This is not, I'm not going to involve tokenist castings. This is what we're going to do. This is our plan for 5 years. This is how we expect it to slowly gather.
Venues and organisations can challenge what their current perceptions are of quality and of the idea of who is best for the job, and interrogate the thinking behind that currently exists.
As an artistic director, starting with the art as well, who's making the work, who's telling the stories, who are you giving agency to, who are you giving power to.
It's having the curiosity to listen to everyone around you and being able to use that listening to navigate where you go next.
It comes from a white privilege, having access to various kind of jobs and opportunities, and people are more willing to take the chance on those individuals because race is so inherently linked with risk.
There needs to be a collaboration and there needs to be a sharing of power. And I think that's one of the big challenges for cultural organisations at the moment is how do we make shifts given that the leadership continues to be fairly white, fairly male.
One of the small but big things that I learned was about terminology and clarity, and not being afraid to say this opportunity is for people of colour or this opportunity is for BME communities.
Make sure your job adverts are visible to and actively encouraging applications from underrepresented groups.
And thinking about the stuff that you're making necessary or essential on your job description that might actually not be essential, but you just kind of put it there because you kind of always put it there.
Not constantly recruiting to our often outdated model of what a leader is.
Once you're into interviewing mode, I think it's about seeing potential rather than just basing everything on skills.
Pay front of house assistants, because I know from talking to Sarah at Derby that she does that, and it makes a huge difference to the profile of those frontline staff.
And then once those people are employed, recognising that they might need some extra support, so making sure that mentoring, coaching, etc. is there, which you should be doing anyway as a good organisation who looks after your staff.
You need to ensure that those staff members who understand the importance of cultural diversity from their own perspective, give them the space to lead on that, and that you stand behind them 100%, but that you don't try to lead on it. Neither do you say, well, you know about it, you go and do it.
The senior management needs to be diverse. The top layer needs to be diverse. If it's not diverse, you're going to really struggle to have diversity. You might get it drip fed in, and that's why it feels like an add-on.
How do we think about more collaborative processes of programming our work in partnership with communities, being inspired by the ideas of the city and working with communities to make those a reality on our stages?
It's about reaching out regularly, not just when you need help ticking a box.
With audiences, it can't just be a one-off wonder. It has to be something that gets people, and then the next season there has to be something too, and the season after that, and the season after that.
It's really thinking about what's the relationship, how do we grow the relationship, how do we grow the family within the city, because ultimately we as cultural organisations are in service to the communities in our city.
The first thing you have to do is go out and talk to those audiences in their, in their home turf, and find out exactly what it is that's stopping them from coming currently, and then tackle that on an issue by issue basis.
It's really important to get out of the mindset that you need to do everything the same for everybody to make it equal. I think it's really clear that people need to be communicated with in different ways.
Diverse audiences don't just want to see diverse work. They want to see a whole spectrum of work in the way that we all do. But yes, of course, they also want to see themselves represented.
Not engaging in this duality of community work and professional work. Again, thinking in a much more integrated way about our audiences, our participants, our emerging talent. Those are all the same people.
For me, what's really important when you're creating works of art is truth, and that starts at the very top. We need to find out where we are, if people really want to make the change, and once we find out where we are, we can move forward.
I hate to kind of bring it back to the kind of basics really, but there is a huge issue around, funding for diversity.
What the unique thing was with Ignite was the production budget that came with it. So the budget to produce a show, but also to develop a program of audience development, artist development, and outreach and engagement. That was really unique. And I think what we need is more positive action schemes like that across the nation.
There needs to be that kind of long-term commitment to make change happen. It's not going to happen otherwise. There needs to be kind of proper investment in doing things and seeing them through in sort of 5-10 years, not like 2 years. 2 years, you can't really do anything in 2 years.
Now there's actually people that are trained and ready to go out into the industry, which is why schemes like Sustained continuing to be funded is so key, because without it, there is no choice in the pool.
Something like the Sustained project is vital, because taking people and helping them grow as producers, where they will be able to influence the work that goes on stage and the creatives that are employed to make that work, is the best way possible to be changing everything.
I walked past a theatre, which shall remain nameless, earlier this year, and there were 4 posters for plays outside that theatre, and all 4 of them were advertised with the face of a white man. All 4 of them. And all 4 of them were written by white men. And, let's Let's have a moratorium on posters with white men on. Just for a year. Let's not do anything by white men and see what happens. No offence to white men. Some of my best friends are white men.